Hey girl, welcome to the kitchen. Today we're going to be making some cupcakes. I'm going to use my basic vanilla cupcake recipe, which you can also translate to cakes, layer cakes, slab cakes, pretty much anything. This recipe is fantastic because it scales across many different flavors and many different formats. So let's get started. I'm going to use a stand mixer today because I'm lazy. Normally I'm making probably 4 to 6 times the quantity that we have here today. So a stand mixer is really great for that. First things first, we're going to reverse cream our flour, sugar and oil. So in a lot of non-vegan bakings, you might be used to creaming the fat and sugar together. So that would usually be eggs, sugar, oil or butter or something like that in the first stage. And what that does is the sugar acts as little blades through the fat and creates little air pockets and basically slices through the fat. Now we don't have that same protein reaction in vegan cakes, so what we're doing instead is we're going to essentially coat the flour and sugar with our fat, which we're using vegetable oil today. And what that is going to do by reverse creaming it, it's going to form a little barrier around the protein and the gluten in our flour so that we don't overwork the gluten and we don't end up with a dense cake, and we're going to end up with a really nice light fluffy crumb. So first thing, let's get our flour into the stand mixer. Always sift your flour. It's something that I used to think didn't make much of a difference, but it really does make a big difference. Just to introduce more air into the mix, we're going to throw in our sugar just like that, and then we're going to put in our oil, fat, and lastly we're going to throw in some baking soda and salt as well. So if you want to come in here and have a look at this, so we're just going to throw that into the stand mixer. You can come in nice and tight if you want, and we're just going to let that mix together until it all comes to an even color and consistency. There's kind of some lumps and everything at the moment. We just want it to become nice and homogeneous. There's really, we're probably nearly approaching readiness here, but you can't really overwork this because there's no liquid to activate the gluten. So, you could let that just go for however long you really want. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our wet ingredients ready. So I've got some soy milk here, and we're going to make a little vegan buttercream. Buttermilk, I should say. So to do that, we're going to add some apple cider vinegar and vanilla extract. We're just going to throw that into the mix, and straight away, you'll probably see it's going to start to split the milk. And there you can see that splitting, and I can already feel how thick this mix is starting to get. So ideally, we want to leave that for a few moments. So I'm going to grab a spoon behind you. I'm going to let this thicken up. Now this is your opportunity and chance to add flavoring if you want to add flavoring and coloring as well. So we're going to make a peppermint cupcake today with green coloring. So I've got some peppermint essence in here. We always want to add flavorings and liquid flavorings and liquid colorings to our wet mix, okay? Never to the dry. Because right now I could leave this for, rest of the day. It's not going to result in a stodgy cupcake. It's fine. As soon as I add any liquid in there, it's going to start to do that. So dry with dry ingredients, liquid with liquid ingredients. If you had something like a freeze-dried strawberry you wanted to add, you could add that to your dry mix. But if we're using all liquids today. So my peppermint essence is in there. I'm going to add in some mint green food coloring. I'm using Chef Master. I recommend them, Chef Master, for really vibrant colors in cake. Americolor is great for buttercreams, but I don't find that they hold up as well when you bake them. They brown too much, particularly in this recipe at least. So I find the Chef Master ones will give you much more vibrant colors even after the cake is baked. We're using gel coloring, meaning it's going to be really thick and it's going to be a really vibrant, dense color. These ones are also vegan, so we're just going to add a little bit in there. Again, wet ingredient, wet mix. I'm going to give it a stir. And I'm pretty happy with that level of green. It's going to change a little bit when we add it back to our dry mix, and if I was really unhappy with it, I could go ahead and add a little bit more in there. but we just want to avoid over mixing this. So everything's ready to go now. Our buttermilk is kind of thickened up. We've got our ingredients here. It's kind of like, I don't know, it kind of feels like brown sugar in there. It's just a mix, is just really, it feels like it's evenly wet from the fat. Just gonna add in our dry and our wet ingredients into that. And I like to give it just a bit of a quick stir from the bottom up, just to make sure that we don't leave any pockets at the bottom. And we're just gonna throw that back in the stand mixer. And we're only gonna mix it for about 20 or so seconds, just until we get rid of the lumps in there. You can already see that most of the lumps have gone. There's just a few left. That's looking pretty good for me. I'm just gonna check it by scraping my spoon through it. Yep, look, there's no obvious lumps in there. Remember, you want to avoid overworking your cake batter just until it's come together and we've gotten rid of all of those lumps. That's why sifting the flour is really important as well, so that we already break up some of those flour lumps potentially before we even get started. So over here I've got my little oven, which is preheated to 180 degrees. Usually we use a really big oven for this, and the fan inside it is really powerful. So I find that I have to turn my cupcakes about a third of the way through baking so that they get an even rise. Otherwise they end up kind of looking like little mountaintops that have been pushed to one side. This fella here, which is probably more likely what you've got at home, is a much more subdued oven, hasn't got a huge fan in it, so we shouldn't have that same problem. So, putting these into your little cases, you can do these in, we've got cupcake cases today, you could do it in muffin cases. Baking times are gonna differ. You can use a piping bag for this, you can use a spoon. I'm just gonna kind of guide it in because I haven't got that many to do. We wanna fill it about 2/3 of the way, not too high because these will rise. Just encouraging that in there. Up. Always making a mess. Cool. Am I gonna get 6? Usually it said we make 12 or 24 at a time of these depending on what we're doing, but I don't think I'm gonna get the full 6 out of these. Doing a terrible job. That's good. Well, wing it. There we go. Try and make them all. Don't laugh. Try and make them all. Try and make them reasonably the same fullness. I'm just going to tidy it up. Bit of paper. Alrighty, now I'm not a huge fan of dictating how long these are going to bake for. Reality is they're probably going to bake somewhere around 15 minutes. Everyone's oven is wildly different. We use the same recipe for little cupcakes like this, big muffins, big layer cakes as well. So it always differs. The things you want to check for are, does a skewer or a knife or something like that come out clean? And also when you touch them on the top, they should bounce back. So they shouldn't just kind of like sit or just deflate. They should feel like they have a little bit of bounce in them. So we're going to throw it in the oven here. And I'm going to put it on for like, you know, I'm probably going to check it after 10 minutes. But we'll put it on for 15 and come back and see what they look like. Alrighty, our cupcake alarm's just gone off. I added an extra 5 minutes, so these have been in there for about 20 minutes or so. So we can see the color on top, they're sort of lightly browned. When I touch them, they bounce back. I find this test is much more convenient and reliable than the skewer test, because sort of the skewer test, These cupcakes are going to go through a little bit of a transformation, so they're going to start out quite soft. They're still going to keep baking a little bit for the next few minutes while they start to cool down. So I want to leave them in the muffin tray for maybe 5 or so minutes, just to let them acclimatise out here and outside of the oven. Then we are going to pop them into the fridge to let them completely cool, because we want to put some buttercream on them. Once they go in the fridge, they'll probably harden up a little bit on the outside, but then when they come back to room temperature again, they're going to plateau and become our final product, and we'll have a beautiful crumb. So we'll just let them hang out for a minute, and we'll come back afterwards, and we'll put some buttercream on them. Alrighty, our little cupcakes are out of the fridge now. They've had time to cool down. I'm going to sacrifice one to show you the center. Just want to see what the crumb looks like. So we cut these straight down the middle and open up. Cool. So you can see the inside, we've got little pockets of air. It springs back. It's beautifully light and fluffy. It's still really, it's holding a structure, perfect for doing layer cakes or anything like that. So you could, if you're sort of a criminal, you could just leave them like this. Or if you want to see a video where we make a beautiful rainbow buttercream that goes on top of these mint cupcakes, you can click up here or check the related videos.